Sometimes the greatest lessons in life don't come from boardrooms, luxury offices, or million-dollar decisions. They come from a tiny kitchen, a simple meal, and the heart of someone we barely noticed. Humility is often misunderstood in a world that celebrates power, prestige, and the relentless pursuit of success. People tend to associate greatness with being above others, having more money, more authority, and more influence. But true greatness is not built on superiority. It is built on character, empathy, and the ability to see others as equals, regardless of status. The story of the millionaire boss dining at his maid's humble home beautifully reveals this truth. No amount of wealth can replace the richness of a humble heart. When the millionaire first entered his maid's small neighborhood, he felt something unusual discomfort. Not because the area was unsafe or unpleasant, but because he was stepping into a world he had never taken the time to understand. He had spent years living in luxury, isolated from the struggles and simplicity that defined the daily lives of most people. His success had given him comfort, but it had also quietly built walls around him, walls that prevented him from seeing the real value of humility. Stepping into his maid's small home was a moment of silent awakening. The space was modest, with old furniture and faded curtains, but everything inside carried a sense of care. The table was set with dishes she had spent her limited savings preparing. There were no expensive decorations, no lavish meals, no servants to attend to them. Just a simple setting created with love and respect. And that was the first lesson the millionaire received. Humility is expressed not through wealth, but through intention. As he sat at the table, he noticed how proud she was to serve him. Not because he was rich, not because he was her employer, but because she was grateful for the work she had, thankful for the opportunity to invite him into her life, and honored to share the little she had. In that moment, the millionaire felt something he rarely felt, small, not in a belittling way, but in a grounding way. He realized how often he had taken things for granted: food prepared by others, comfort provided by money, respect automatically given to him due to his title. Yet here he was, being served by someone who had so little, and giving her everything she had. Did not make her feel poor. It made her feel fulfilled. Humility teaches us this powerful truth. The value of a person is not determined by their possessions, but by their heart. As the meal continued, the millionaire began to see his maid not as an employee, but as a human being with her own sacrifices, dreams, and dignity. She told him about how she worked extra hours to support her children's education, how she saved every bit she could to fix her leaking roof, and how proud she felt that despite hardships, she never allowed her children to feel unloved or unsupported. Each word struck him more deeply than any business negotiation, financial report, or motivational seminar ever had. He realized that humility is not weakness, it is strength, the strength to live honestly, the strength to be grateful, the strength to keep going even when life is difficult, and the strength to remain kind despite challenges. Humility allows us to grow beyond our ego. The millionaire saw that his success had made him powerful, but it had also made him blind. He had forgotten what struggle felt like. He had forgotten what sacrifice meant. And most importantly, he had forgotten that every person he met, from executives to cleaners, from managers to maids, had a story worth respecting. For the first time in a long time, he felt human again. Not superior, not privileged, not untouchable, just human. This shift within him didn't come from a mansion, a luxury dinner, or a high-profile meeting. It came from a humble home, a simple meal, and the sincerity of someone society often overlooks. As he listened to her speak about her life, he realized something that would stay with him forever. Humility is the foundation of true leadership. A leader who looks down on others cannot inspire them, cannot earn their loyalty, and cannot truly understand the world they are trying to impact. To lead effectively, one must be willing to step down from their pedestal and see life from the perspective of those who walk behind them. Humility connects people. Humility heals the ego. Humility reveals what wealth can never buy: genuine respect. And that evening, the millionaire discovered that all his achievements, all his riches, and all his status meant very little if he could not appreciate the value of the people who helped him build his success. In that small, humble home, he didn't feel like a boss. He didn't feel like a millionaire. He felt like a student learning from one of the most sincere teachers he had ever known. The lesson was clear. We rise higher not by lifting ourselves above others, but by lowering our ego and elevating our humanity. Simple living is often mistaken for lack, limitation, or poverty, but in reality, simple living holds a depth, beauty, and emotional richness that many people surrounded by luxury never get to experience. The Maid's humble home was a living example of this kind of beauty, a place where the millionaire boss discovered lessons that no business school, luxury lifestyle, or millionaire circle had ever taught him. When he first stepped into her small house, he immediately noticed the contrast to his own world. No marble floors, no grand chandeliers, no polished surfaces, and no expensive paintings. Instead, there were cracked walls, second-hand furniture, and a small kitchen filled with the aroma of a meal cooked with love, not luxury. Yet, within this apparent simplicity, he sensed something deeply comforting, a genuine warmth that his large, echoing mansion never provided. Simple living, he realized, is not about having less, it is about valuing more. The maid moved around her home with pride, not embarrassment. Every item had a purpose. Every object had a story. The small dining table had been repaired many times, yet it stood strong just like her spirit. The plates she served on were mismatched, not because she didn't care, but because she made sure every plate was kept, even if it was old, cracked, or donated. To her, usefulness mattered more than perfection. And this was the second great lesson the millionaire absorbed. Simplicity doesn't diminish life, it enriches it. In his wealthy world, he had always believed comfort came from upgrades. Every new gadget, every designer piece, every luxury purchase provided temporary satisfaction. But that satisfaction faded quickly, replaced by the desire for the next best thing. His life was filled with abundance, yet he constantly felt a strange emptiness, a hunger for more. Inside her home, that hunger disappeared. Why? Because simple living creates an atmosphere where appreciation thrives. When you have fewer distractions, fewer possessions, and fewer artificial comforts, you begin to notice the real blessings around you: family, peace, food, health, and connection. As he watched her serve food cooked with ingredients she carefully budgeted for, he felt something he did not expect: gratitude. Not the kind that comes from receiving something expensive, but the kind that roots itself in the heart when someone gives from their soul. The meal wasn't fancy, but every bite carried the flavor of effort, sacrifice, and sincerity. And that was something money could never buy. The power of simple living also lies in emotional stability. The maid lived a life without luxury, but she was emotionally rich, grounded, content, and grateful. She didn't spend her days chasing after more, she spent them appreciating what she had. This mindset gave her strength to endure hardships, courage to raise her children with dignity, and peace to sleep every night without the stress of maintaining a lifestyle far beyond her means. In contrast, the millionaire often felt exhausted. His wealth required constant upkeep, business deals, meetings, financial strategies, and the pressure to always remain at the top. Luxury had built a cage around him, made of gold but still a cage. Simple living, on the other hand, offered freedom, the kind of freedom that comes from knowing that happiness does not depend on what you own. For the first time, he truly understood that simplicity opens the heart, while excess often closes it. He noticed how openly the maid laughed, how genuinely she spoke, and how content she seemed despite her limited resources. She didn't have much, yet she was rich in gratitude. She didn't chase prestige, yet she carried quiet confidence. She didn't have wealth, yet she had inner peace. Her simple life created space for real emotions, real connections, and real joy, things he often found missing in his own world of superficial greetings, formal conversations, and material, purpose-driven interactions. Simple living forces us to focus on what matters. People, not possessions, moments, not materials, heart, not status, purpose, not perfection, as the millionaire observed her children sitting close, sharing stories, and laughing together. He saw the beauty of family bonds strengthened by simplicity. There was no expensive entertainment, no fancy toys, no digital distractions, just togetherness, pure and unfiltered. He realized that simple living builds stronger relationships. When life isn't cluttered with unnecessary things, hearts have more room to connect. He also saw how resourceful she was, fixing broken items instead of throwing them away, saving leftovers, managing every rupee with wisdom, and making the most of everything she had. This taught him another profound truth. Simplicity breeds gratitude, and gratitude breeds abundance. Not abundance of wealth, but abundance of peace, love, and fulfillment. The millionaire, sitting in her humble home, understood finally that the world defines richness incorrectly. Richness is not measured in bank accounts, luxury homes, or elite circles. True richness is the ability to find joy in simplicity, to feel blessed with little, and to appreciate the everyday miracles that surround us. Simple living is not a downgrade. It is an upgrade of the heart. Gratitude is one of the simplest yet most profound forces in human life. It is often overlooked in a world obsessed with achievement, accumulation, and comparison. People constantly chase more money, more recognition, more possessions, believing that happiness lies in the next goal, the next promotion, or the next material possession. Yet, as the millionaire boss discovered that night at his maid's humble home, true happiness is not earned through wealth or status. It is cultivated through gratitude. When he first entered her home, he noticed the effort she had made to welcome him. The meal she prepared, modest as it was presented with care and pride. Every dish, every gesture, every word reflected her appreciation, not only for the work he gave her, but for life itself. She had little, but she gave him her best. That simple act, done without expectation or obligation, revealed a universal truth. Happiness grows from the seeds of thankfulness, not from the accumulation of wealth. The millionaire had lived his life thinking that success equaled happiness. He thought a bigger house, faster cars, and more power would fill the void he felt inside. But that evening, he witnessed a different kind of joy. His maid's happiness wasn't derived from material possessions. It came from recognizing and cherishing the small blessings she had. A safe roof over her head, food on the table, her children laughing, the ability to care for her family. These were the treasures she celebrated every day. And that celebration radiated, filling the room with warmth that no luxury mansion could replicate. Gratitude has a remarkable power. It shifts perspective. It allows us to see abundance in scarcity, joy in simplicity, and wealth in experiences rather than possessions. The millionaire realized that he had been blind to this. He had spent years measuring life in numbers, salary figures, bank balances, and property values, without ever noticing the intangible richness all around him. By witnessing someone who lived humbly yet happily, he understood that appreciation of life's small gifts is a far greater source of fulfillment than any material gain. As the meal continued, he observed how she expressed gratitude not only in words but in actions. She smiled when serving the food, she spoke kindly about her children, and she treated him with respect and warmth, despite their unequal social positions. Gratitude, he realized, is not passive, it is active. It is shown in how we treat others, how we handle challenges, and how we acknowledge even the smallest joys in our lives. It is a force that connects hearts, strengthens relationships, and nurtures emotional well-being. Science and psychology today confirm what the millionaire instinctively felt that night. Gratitude rewires the mind for happiness. Studies show that people who actively practice gratitude experience greater life satisfaction, better mental health, and stronger social connections. When we focus on what we have rather than what we lack, our brains release positive chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, which enhance mood and reduce stress. Gratitude is not just an emotion. It is a practice, a lens through which we can view the world more kindly and joyfully. The Maid's simple life provided a perfect classroom for this lesson. She had limited resources, yet she was never complaining or bitter. She had challenges, but she focused on what was working, not what was missing. She taught the millionaire that gratitude is a mindset, a conscious decision to recognize the value in what we already possess. It does not require wealth, power, or social status. All it requires is awareness and intentionality. Another profound aspect of gratitude is its ripple effect. The happiness that arises from being grateful is not confined to oneself, it spreads. By showing appreciation, she created a positive atmosphere in her home. Her children learned to value what they had. Her neighbors would feel uplifted by her attitude, and even the millionaire, who entered her home expecting a mere visit, left with a transformed perspective. Gratitude, in essence, multiplies joy. It is contagious and empowering. The millionaire also realized a hard truth. For years, he had been chasing happiness externally, assuming it was something to acquire or purchase. But happiness is internal, and gratitude is the key. It is the lens that turns ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. A simple meal becomes a feast, a small gesture becomes an act of love, and a modest home becomes a sanctuary of warmth. Happiness is not found in more. It is found in acknowledgement and appreciation of what already exists. That evening, as he looked around the humble home, he noticed details he had never considered before. The effort she put into maintaining cleanliness despite limited resources, the careful budgeting of ingredients for a meal, and the love embedded in every gesture. Each act, though small, reflected gratitude for life itself. He realized that wealth and success had blinded him to the simple joys that make life meaningful. Gratitude, he saw, is the compass that points us toward true contentment, reminding us to value relationships, effort, and the intangible blessings we often overlook. Gratitude creates happiness because it transforms perspective. It teaches patience, fosters empathy, and encourages generosity. When we are grateful, we are more likely to notice the kindness of others, to give back, and to cultivate joy in everyday moments. This is the lesson the millionaire could not ignore. The humble, thankful heart of his maid illuminated a path to fulfillment that no fortune could buy. In the quiet of that modest home, he understood what many people never do in a lifetime. That gratitude is not just a response to having enough. It is the foundation for a truly happy and meaningful life. One of the most powerful lessons the millionaire boss learned that evening at his maid's humble home was the undeniable truth that every human being has value, regardless of their social status, occupation, or wealth. In our modern society, it is all too easy to rank people based on their income, education, or position. We admire CEO, celebrities, and influencers while often overlooking the quiet contributions of those working behind the scenes. But that night, the millionaire saw first, and how limiting and misleading such judgments can be. When he entered his maid's home, he initially carried the assumptions of his affluent world. He thought of her simply as an employee, a helper whose role was to make his life easier, someone whose value was tied directly to the tasks she performed for him. Yet, as soon as he began to interact with her, those assumptions began to crumble. He realized that her worth was not dependent on her job title or financial status. It was intrinsic, built on her character, her resilience, her compassion, and her ability to find joy despite hardship. The millionaire observed the pride she had in caring for her family, managing her household with limited means, and making each small decision with thoughtfulness and love. She may not have had wealth, but she possessed skills, virtues, and wisdom that were invaluable. She demonstrated patience, responsibility, creativity, and emotional intelligence, qualities that no amount of money or formal education could buy. In that moment, he understood that human value is not measured in dollars or accolades, but in the richness of one's actions, integrity, and heart. Her children further reinforced this lesson. Despite growing up in a modest home, they were confident, curious, and kind. Their mother had nurtured them with love and discipline, teaching them to respect others, be grateful, and find joy in what they had. The millionaire realized that the impact of a person extends far beyond their immediate surroundings. This maid, whom society often overlooked, had created a legacy of values, hope, and moral strength through her everyday actions. That is true value. It is measured not by social recognition, but by the positive influence one has on the lives of others. The millionaire also saw that she carried a dignity that money could not purchase. She moved through life with humility, but not with submission. She served, yes, but she also led, by example. She faced her challenges without complaint, worked tirelessly without seeking attention, and contributed to her community and family in ways that were quietly heroic. For the millionaire, this was a revelation. The people we often underestimate are sometimes the most remarkable ones, because their worth is not dependent on external validation. Another important dimension of this lesson is empathy. When we recognize that everyone has value, we are more inclined to treat others with respect, patience, and understanding. The millionaire had been accustomed to giving orders and expecting compliance, but that evening, he realized that leadership is not about asserting power. It is about recognizing the potential, dignity, and humanity in every individual. By seeing value in his maid, he began to see value in all people he interacted with, whether they were colleagues, subordinates, or strangers. This shift in perspective was transformative. It changed how he would relate to the world forever. Society often glorifies wealth and prestige, leading many to devalue roles that appear ordinary or low-ranking. But the evening demonstrated that value is not hierarchical. A janitor, a maid, a teacher, or a farmer can possess wisdom, kindness, and moral strength equal to, or surpassing, that of the richest person in the world. True recognition comes from looking beyond superficial labels and acknowledging the intrinsic worth that every human carries. The millionaire also learned an essential truth about reciprocity and mutual respect. Every person we encounter has something to teach us, something to offer, and something valuable to share. The maid may not have had financial wealth, but she had insights about resilience, gratitude, family, and contentment that were priceless. He realized that by respecting her value, he was opening himself to a world of learning, empathy, and personal growth, lessons he could never acquire through money or status alone. Furthermore, recognizing that everyone has value fosters humility and connection. It reminds us that no matter how successful we become, we are all part of the same human experience. Wealth or power does not make anyone superior. It simply provides different opportunities and responsibilities. By appreciating the worth of others, we break down barriers, build bridges, and cultivate a more compassionate and just society. That night, the millionaire saw the broader implications of this truth. Every person has the potential to inspire, teach, and uplift those around them. Every life has meaning, every effort has impact, and every heart holds dignity. The maid's value was not determined by her income or her social position. It was inherent, expressed through her courage, her kindness, her care for her family, and her ability to live with purpose despite limitations. Ultimately, the lesson was undeniable. When we see and honor the value in everyone, we enrich not only their lives but our own. It is a realization that transforms relationships, communities, and even one's approach to leadership. Respecting the worth of every individual becomes a guiding principle, a compass that ensures fairness, empathy, and humanity in every interaction. Leadership is often portrayed as a position of authority, power, and control. Many people assume that to lead effectively, one must command respect, enforce rules, and make decisions from a distance. Yet, the millionaire boss learned a transformative lesson that evening at his maid's humble home. True leadership is not about authority, it is about compassion. It is about understanding, empathy, and valuing every individual, regardless of their status or position. As the millionaire observed his maid and the environment she had created, he noticed the depth of her care. Despite limited resources, she ensured that her family was loved, supported, and nurtured. She managed her household with patience and grace, balancing responsibilities, challenges, and dreams. She led not through orders or expectations, but through actions that inspired, guided, and uplifted those around her. This was leadership at its purest form, quiet, intentional, and compassionate. Compassionate leadership begins with recognizing the humanity of every individual. The millionaire realized that he had often focused on results, efficiency, and bottom lines, sometimes overlooking the emotional and personal needs of the people who worked for him. He had measured employees' value in terms of productivity and performance metrics, not their challenges, struggles, or potential. But observing his maid taught him that leadership requires looking beyond numbers and seeing the human being behind every task, title, and role. The way she welcomed him into her home was a testament to compassionate leadership in action. Though she was technically the one serving him, her actions reflected empathy, generosity, and understanding. She created an environment where respect and care mattered more than wealth or position. Through her simple gestures, the millionaire realized that compassion is not a weakness. It is a profound strength that builds trust, loyalty, and meaningful relationships. Compassionate leadership also involves humility. By stepping into her world, he humbled himself, leaving behind the arrogance and pride that often accompany power. He recognized that no title or salary can replace the importance of listening, understanding, and valuing the experiences of others. True leaders do not lead from fear or superiority. They lead from a place of empathy, connection, and awareness of the impact their decisions have on people's lives. Moreover, compassion fosters a culture of respect and collaboration. When leaders show understanding and care, it inspires those around them to do the same. The millionaire noticed that even with limited resources, his maid's household operated harmoniously because she led with patience and kindness. Every family member felt valued, heard, and supported. He realized that compassionate leadership motivates others intrinsically. It creates loyalty not out of obligation, but out of admiration and gratitude. Another critical lesson was that compassion requires presence. Leadership is not about giving orders from a distance. It is about being present in the lives of the people you lead. The millionaire had spent years managing his empire through delegation, schedules, and oversight. He rarely stepped into the personal spaces of those who worked for him, assuming that his position alone guaranteed effectiveness. Yet, being physically present in the maid's home, witnessing her life, and understanding her daily struggles opened his eyes to a deeper truth. Effective leadership requires connecting with people on a human level, seeing their realities, and responding with empathy. Compassionate leaders also recognize and celebrate the efforts of others. The millionaire saw how much work went into preparing the meal, maintaining the home, and caring for her children. He realized that acknowledgement and appreciation are powerful tools in leadership. When people feel seen and valued, their morale rises, their productivity improves, and their loyalty strengthens. Compassionate leadership is about noticing these efforts, expressing gratitude, and validating the worth of every contribution, no matter how small it may seem. Furthermore, the millionaire understood that leadership is not limited to professional environments. Life itself requires compassion, and every interaction is an opportunity to lead with heart. The maid led in her household, in her community, and in her family with love, patience, and empathy. She demonstrated that leadership is less about control and more about influence, an influence rooted in care, understanding, and the desire to uplift others rather than dominate them. Compassionate leadership also involves patience and emotional intelligence. It requires understanding the pressures, fears, and aspirations of those you lead. The millionaire realized that his own impatience and transactional approach had limited his effectiveness. Observing the maid's patience, adaptability, and thoughtful approach to problem solving highlighted how a compassionate leader nurtures growth, resilience, and confidence in others. It is about guiding without judgment, correcting without humiliation, and inspiring without coercion. Ultimately, that evening illustrated the transformative power of leadership rooted in compassion. The millionaire learned that authority without empathy creates distance and fear, whereas empathy without authority fosters connection, trust, and influence. He realized that his success and wealth were insignificant if they did not include the ability to understand, connect with, and uplift the people around him. Leadership, he understood, is not about titles. It is about the heart. In witnessing the maid's life and her quiet but impactful leadership, the millionaire recognized a universal truth. Compassion is the foundation upon which all meaningful leadership is built. It creates loyalty, inspires dedication, and fosters environments where people feel valued and respected. Without compassion, leadership is hollow. With it, leadership transforms lives. One of the most profound realizations the millionaire boss experienced that evening at his maid's humble home was that life's most meaningful lessons often arrive in the most unexpected places. We tend to believe that growth, wisdom, and transformation come from deliberate planning, formal education, or carefully structured experiences. We chase mentors, attend workshops, and study books, thinking that knowledge is linear and lessons predictable. Yet, the night spent in a small, modest home reminded him that the universe often teaches us what we need to learn through surprises, simple encounters, and moments we least anticipate. When the millionaire accepted the invitation to dine at his maid's home, he did not anticipate the emotional, mental, and spiritual awakening that awaited him. On the surface, he might have expected a polite dinner, a gesture of goodwill, or perhaps nothing extraordinary at all. He certainly did not expect a life-changing lesson in humility, gratitude, compassion, and perspective. And yet, that seemingly ordinary evening became one of the most transformative experiences of his life. This underscores a critical truth. The most impactful lessons often come without warning, disguised in ordinary moments, and hidden in the lives of ordinary people. Many of us live life waiting for grand, dramatic moments to impart wisdom. We assume that profound experiences are marked by ceremonies, events, or monumental milestones. But the millionaire's experience showed him the opposite. The extraordinary often hides in the ordinary. A small home, a simple meal, and a humble act of hospitality became the classroom, and the maid became the teacher. He discovered that learning does not require status, fame, or wealth. It requires attention, openness, and a willingness to see the extraordinary in the seemingly mundane. One of the most striking aspects of this lesson was its subtlety. Nothing about the evening screamed life-altering. There were no speeches, no textbooks, no grand gestures. And yet, every interaction, every glance, and every story shared carried deep insight. The millionaire realized that life's best lessons are often wrapped in quiet moments, waiting for those willing to notice them. The world constantly offers opportunities for growth, but we often overlook them because we are too focused on what we think we should be learning or achieving. Another essential part of this insight is the role of humility. Life's unexpected lessons often arrive when we step outside our comfort zones, when we encounter situations or people that challenge our assumptions. The millionaire had lived a life of wealth and privilege, accustomed to a world that catered to his preferences and validated his sense of superiority. Yet, by entering the maid's home, a space unfamiliar, modest, and humbling, he exposed himself to lessons he could not have encountered in his usual environment. This teaches a critical truth. Personal growth often requires stepping into spaces we might initially overlook, underestimate, or even avoid. The maid's life itself was an embodiment of these unexpected lessons. She had faced hardships, limited resources, and societal judgments, yet she radiated dignity, contentment, and wisdom. Through her life, He learned that resilience is not always loud, courage is not always celebrated, and greatness is not always visible. True wisdom often lies in lived experience, in everyday perseverance, and in the choices people make when no one is watching. By observing her, he realized that we cannot judge the potential for learning based on appearance, status, or background. Every person carries lessons that, if noticed, can reshape our perspectives and transform our lives. Furthermore, life's best lessons often teach what we did not know we needed to learn. The millionaire entered that home expecting to show kindness, perhaps offer advice, or experience a simple dinner. He never anticipated that he would leave profoundly changed, more humble, more grateful, more compassionate, and more aware of the intrinsic value of others. This illustrates that the lessons we most need are often hidden until we are confronted with experiences that open our hearts and minds. Life, in its mysterious wisdom, tends to teach indirectly, nudging us toward insights we might never seek deliberately. These lessons also remind us to remain attentive and open. The millionaire's transformation was not automatic. It required noticing, listening, and reflecting. Life's unexpected lessons demand engagement. They require us to pay attention, to recognize meaning in ordinary moments, and to allow experiences to challenge our preconceived notions. If he had dismissed the dinner as trivial, if he had focused only on his own comfort, he would have missed one of the most valuable teachings of his life. Finally, this experience highlights a universal truth. The world is full of teachers, and lessons can come from anyone, anywhere, and at any time. The millionaire could have sought wisdom only from renowned experts, mentors, or formal channels. Yet, the most profound insight arrived through a simple, heartfelt experience with someone society deemed ordinary. Life constantly offers unexpected opportunities for growth. We simply need the eyes, ears, and heart to recognize them. In essence, the millionaire learned that life's lessons are rarely convenient or predictable. They come from places we least expect, from people we may initially overlook, and from experiences we might initially dismiss. They are subtle, profound, and transformative, but only if we are willing to see, listen, and learn. That night, as the millionaire left his maid's humble home, he realized that wealth, status, and power are fleeting, but the lessons we learn from the human heart are eternal. Humility teaches us to stay grounded. Simplicity shows us what truly matters. Gratitude fills our lives with joy. Recognizing the value in every person transforms relationships. Compassion shapes us into leaders worth following. And the most profound lessons often come when we least expect them. He understood that true success is not measured by the money we earn or the luxuries we possess. It is measured by the lives we touch, the hearts we respect, and the humanity we embrace. That evening changed him forever, reminding us all that life's greatest treasures are not found in our bank accounts, but in the hearts of those around us. And perhaps, if we open our eyes and our hearts, we too can discover the lessons that will transform our lives in ways we never imagined.